So perhaps we could get started. I'm wondering, Chair McGillis, maybe we could let you kick it off and we'll just do a around the table introductions. There's a couple of new faces here today.
Sure. Want me to start?
Sure.
I thought we were a little bit informal here. But my name is Brian McGillis. I'm the mayor of South Stormont, and we've been on the police board for 3 terms, or 4 terms now, and enjoy being on the board. And I want to welcome interim detachment, Simon Hardy. Welcome to the for your first meeting. It's nice to see you again. And Norm's, is he there? He is. He's hiding behind you. And welcome to the meeting as well. I'm sure Maureen's going to welcome you too as well. But looking forward to another year. After this year, annually we have to change the chair, or not change, but have a vote who wants to be chair. So that'll be coming up. So we'll wait for that. Thank you.
Hi, Jamie McDonald, Mayor of North Glengarry, Warden of the Counties. My first term on the Police Services Board, and it's good to see Simon Hardy here today, just as, you know, when we just got the new OPP billing comparison, so that should be, yeah, that should be some interesting questions there, so welcome.
I'm Martin Lang, and I'm happy to be here today. It's Simon Hardy. When I start my report, I can go over my history, but I've been in SDG since 1998 with a brief time away, but very happy to be back. And I'll bore you with my life story later on in the meeting, but thank you for having me today.
Good morning. My name is Norm Lamontagne. I'm the operational manager for SDNG Detachment, and I've been officially given this role since officially permanently in June, just past June. So I'm quite happy to be in that chair now, and we have a great team to work with and work alongside with you. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Kimberly Castleman. I'm the county clerk here at SDG Counties, and I also serve as the secretary to the board.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Maureen Adams. I'm the CAO for SDG, and I'd like to welcome everybody here this morning, and looking forward to working with everyone.
Good morning. I'm Jim Wirt, former member of County Council, and this is my 2nd term on the police board. So, thank you.
Good morning. Todd Lalone, provincial appointee and recently retired Parks and Landscape Supervisor at the City of Cornwall. Spent 16 years as a trustee and chair of the Catholic District School Board of Eastern Ontario, and proud to be part of the group today and going forward.
Wonderful. And with that, as per the new legislation, we will need to reappoint a chair and a vice chair just to serve the remainder of the year. And then in January, as Councillor McGillis alluded, we will then reappoint a chair and a vice chair as well. So I'm looking for nominations first for chair of the board. Councillor
I nominate Brian McGillis as for chair.
Okay. Is there a seconder for that nomination? Thank you. All in favor? Carried. All right, and for the appointment of a vice chair, are there any nominations?
I nominate Jim Wirt.
Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor McGillis. All in favor? Thank you, and we'll turn it over to Chair McGillis. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the confidence, and we will be doing this until January, and as a chair, and we'll have another vote, and we'll go from there. I'll call the meeting to order. And first we'll start off with the approval of the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda?
No, there's not.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion for the minutes of the previous meeting for February 14th, please?
Yep, we have a motion to approve the agenda first. It reads that the agenda be approved as presented.
Can I have a mover? I'll ask Jamie, and then seconder. Jim will be the seconder. All in favor of the motion, please. Motion is carried. Next we have, is there anyone that wishes to declare a conflict or a pecuniary interest? Anybody?
Yes, she has the
Oh, sorry.
I've got the motion for the minutes. It reads that the minutes of the
Oh.
meeting, including the in-camera minutes held February 14th, 2024, be adopted as presented.
Okay, all in favor of the motion? It's carried.
Do we have a seconder for that?
I thought, yeah, Jim?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. And I asked if there was any conflict or any pecuniary interest. There's nothing. Seeing none, we'll move to the items for discussion. And the first item is updates of governance bylaw and board policies. And we have a motion first, please.
The motion reads that bylaw number 2024-01, being a bylaw to govern the proceedings of the Stormont, Dundas and Glengarry OPP Detachment Board, be approved as presented, and that the board approve the following policies. Policy 1, Detachment Commander Selection and Performance. Policy 2, Detachment Board Member Code of Conduct. And Policy 3, Reporting to the Board.
Thank you, Chair McGillis. As I said, I started here in 1998 and posted to Lancaster and stayed here for 23 years until 2021. At that time, I left to go to the Provincial Communications Center in Smith Falls just prior to its closing, and I was acting inspector there until 2022, at which point I was promoted to the rank of inspector and became detachment commander in Leeds County around Brockville, Gananoque area. And I still reside in SDG. I've raised a family in Glengarry, and I have strong personal and professional connections to SDG. So the opportunity to come back to assist while Inspector Hemrick was covering in Renfrew was a great opportunity and something I relished and jumped at that opportunity. So I'm very grateful for that. As I said, Inspector Hemrick wanted to pass on his thanks for the relationship that's been established with the board here in SDNG, and we're lucky in SDNG that we've had that long-standing police services board. And with the advent of the Community Safety Policing Act, there are a lot of hurdles that a lot of communities are having to go through in terms of coming on board with that act. And Inspector Hemrick and myself both firmly believe that we're well positioned here in SDNG, given our history and our long-standing sort of traditions and policies. So we thank you for that. Just in terms of the report that I'll get on to, policing in general, but especially SDNG, it's quite a transformation. It's a very young police force, and as I said, policing across Ontario. There's been a huge turnover, and SDNG detachment is no different. Since the last time I was here, I now need reading glasses, but I'm not getting any younger, but our force definitely is, which means that we need to be in a position of mentorship and guidance and training and teaching, and that's what we're really focusing on in terms of setting up our police force for as individuals and as an organization for success and creating a firm foundation. So we've, especially the last couple months, we've been working hard to create some more opportunities for our members to be trained in-house, and I mean at times outside of detachment, but that we really focused on, as I said, building better leaders and building strong members who have can gain some experience. In that time, and again, we recently had our sergeant competition in SDNG for 3 positions. So it was we had some great candidates, and we're in the process of just identifying the first 3 members, and that competition could ultimately lead to 5 positions out of that whole competition. But so, as I said, it's a pivotal time for the detachment in that we have such an influx of new leaders, new constables, and we really are ensuring that we have a good strategy to move forward. Likewise, we have some from within some of our new emergency response team members. There's been 2 members that started this year, as well as a new canine officer, all local officers who've moved up to those portfolios. and through the province with the influx of, I'm sure you've seen like the increase in protests across the province. The OPP is often asked to enhance municipal police services during those protests. Therefore, it was a huge, primarily it was the emergency response team members that were doing that, and it's a huge drain on them in the sense that they still have to do canine tracks, barricaded persons, other calls for service. So they created something called, we had it before, but it's public order unit enhancement, which is basically regular constables. And if, for instance, the Panda game that was in Ottawa this weekend, they'll send up a contingent of these enhanced officers to aid our ERT team members in forming sections for the protests. So we have some members within detachments, a great resource to have locally as well. We've also created a abuse coordinator position. It's what's old is new. We used to have that before, and it's an officer that falls under the detective sergeant, and their sole role is to review intimate partner violence investigations and make sure that policies are adhered to, and their investigative excellence in terms of making sure that those files are get the attention they deserve. And we also have a IPV reviewer, which is a similar position, but they go through all our intimate partner violence investigations, and again, just ensure that there's no stone left unturned, and that every investigation is, I'm not saying that our officers don't give their all into every investigation, but it's good just to have a different set of eyes looking at things. So those are two new positions that started. And we've also transitioned with a regional task force with the RCMP and other partner agencies here in Cornwall. 2 officers have moved into those. It's just a natural 3-year cycle. So 2 officers, constables, have moved into those positions, as well as the sergeant who's moving in there, Sergeant Blanchette, to replace Matt Emer, who retired a little while ago. So that's some movement that we have within detachment. Seems lately like change is constant, so that's good. It keeps us on our toes. And just in terms of the report that was provided to you, again, this is through the CSPA. This is a new reporting system that has been generated, and detachment commanders will generate this for the boards. Just in terms of our fatal investigations or incidents, they were up to 4 from 3 at this time last year. And however, personal injury and property damage collisions were down to 52 and 437 respectively. Just in terms of our charges, whether they be criminal or traffic or Highway Traffic Act, they've increased, as you can see, to 1,152 from this time last year. In every category they were up, save for the Liquor License Act charges, which were marginally down, but you can see a substantial increase, 36.7% in the Highway Traffic Act charges, and smaller gains in the or increases in the non-traffic and traffic-related criminal code charges. Warnings, I mean, something to pay attention to is we now have a system of tracking warnings when an officer pulls somebody over, as opposed to just a finger wag. Now we can track that just for reporting, and just keep better stats of that. So that's something that we're cognizant of, that while discretion is, used sometimes, we have to balance that with enforcement. So that's something we pay attention to. And as I said, the warnings are up somewhat from slightly from last year. But when it comes to the violent crime, I'm sure immediately you're drawn to 3 homicides in 2024. We did not actually have 3 homicides in Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry in 2024. We had none, thankfully. But what that is under the new system, they upload cold cases into this system, and it's based on the year that they were uploaded into the system. So in this case, 3 cold case homicides were uploaded into the system in 2024, but actual homicides within it. Oh, sorry, we're on page. It's the violent crime one. I don't think there's a page number, but is there a page, Kimberly? Yeah. It's the one with the violent crime heading. As I said, my need for glasses makes small numbers at the bottom of the page tricky, but yeah, and just in regards to a lot of the other offenses, they're either down and or, I mean, some of these statistics, you can have 1 or 2 incidents and it will mark or it'll provide a significant gain in terms of percentage of change. So the next category is property crime. I'll put on my glasses for this one. And again, we're down in a lot of categories. The one that we're not is frauds, and we're up to 212 frauds for that period. And as I'm sure everyone's well aware, fraudulent activity is rampant across the world, and SDG is no different. We've identified that it places added amount of stress upon the patrol officers who take these investigations, as well as the crime unit, depending on the severity of the fraud and how much the fraud actually is. That being said, we've identified a couple of accommodated members who are going to assist with these fraud investigations, because quite often you have to draw up production orders, search warrants, which are very time consuming but necessary. So we've identified a couple of members to try to get through those frauds, because they are a very disturbing and traumatic incident for those involved. And unfortunately, the nature of these criminals are that they tend to prey upon the most vulnerable in society. And so by adding these couple of accommodated members, we hope to get through some of those frauds. And just and I lean upon, in Leeds, we had a member who, through his own accord and credit to him, obtained a lot of training and like self-learning, as well as organizational supported training, and he's taken on the majority of the large frauds. And now that we have cryptocurrency and what have you, he's become quite knowledgeable in that, and that's what we're hoping to do here as well, is just try to establish a support mechanism for the frontline officers and better serve our victims of crime. CSCU, again, with increases, I see especially the trafficking portion, a lot of that has to do because of the excellent initial response and investigation of our frontline officers, but also our community street crime unit, who works in conjunction with our neighboring police agencies. But they've done a lot of good work in targeting traffickers within our local communities. Currently, there's 5 members assigned to that unit. However, just because of staffing at this point, we have 3 members in there right now. But once our staffing increases, and I mean, just in regards to staffing, from what I see in my experiences around Eastern Ontario, and I travel across the province, is that staffing is and will continue to be one of our greatest challenges in the policing profession, because all police agencies, military, first response, like fire, are all drawing from the same candidate pool, and it's extremely competitive. And that staffing is a great challenge that we are always trying to find strategies on how we can use what we have more efficiently. And there's been a real push, like we've been having town hall meetings with our platoons, and we're soliciting ideas from the platoon members as well, because we have, and when I say we, I think we in policing as a general needs to think outside the box, and we just carrying on traditions that have existed for hundreds of years aren't practical, or and it's not intelligent. So we're really seeking ways to try to ensure that we have the best product available for our community. So and just in terms of the mental health calls, our mobile crisis response team, or MCERT, continues to be very active, and there's an increase in there is an increase in number of calls, mental health act calls, and I'm sure some would say, well, if you have this MCERT team, why are we not seeing a decrease in calls? In reality, I think it's a mark of success for the program, in the sense that officers have bought into the program and are making a lot more referrals. And as I'm sure you've heard at numerous presentations, the majority, or a large part of incidents that we're called to, have some mental health component, and our officers and community partners are doing a lot better job in referring our mobile crisis response team to these individuals in crisis. And it continues to be a very, very effective program, and not just in SDG. You see the benefits across the province, and yeah, so I just see that increase as a testament to the success of the program. And just lastly, in terms of public complaints, we're down to 8 complaints related to conduct. There's 0 policy complaints and 0 service complaints at this point. Again, our officers all strive to provide the utmost professional service. However, those numbers do fluctuate from year to year. And lastly, patrol hours. You'll see there's a substantial increase in patrol hours, and the messaging again is to have positive interactions with the community, and whether it's walking around a soccer game, meeting people, or walking around the schools, we've really been pushing that our officers get out of the cars, and whether it's foot patrol, and I mean, again, policing in general, you're seeing a real return to that aspect of policing that I think has been around since the advent of policing, to get out and interact with the public, and don't just be driving by in your cruiser. And another component of that is we're also tracking our patrol hours and encouraging our patrol hours. And just anecdotally, originally when some of these tracking systems came out, we were told, okay, don't mark patrol hours, you have to mark specifically exactly what you're doing, but in reality, a lot of your shift is spent up doing patrol. But now we've gone back to effectively capturing all our patrol hours. So again, there's a real push for that, and we've seen some of the benefits of that. And again, with a young police service, it's important to get that messaging out that we want the officers out in our communities and making those positive contacts. So barring any questions from any members of the board or you, Mr. Chair, that's my report to council.
Thank you. Are there any questions or any concerns? Go ahead, Todd, please.
Through the chair, and obviously it'll be my first meeting, you can tell me if I'm going up the right way or wrong way in regards to my question and comment. I'll be over to Simon. First of all, my first comment is I appreciate what you're saying in regards to attending schools. For 16 years when I was a school board trustee, one thing that we lacked was a presence in the schools. And obviously we were talking with Norm prior to this meeting, and we recognize and see what's happening right now in Kempville, where the Catholic School Board actually is. There's issues. And I do appreciate where we hear more policing within our schools, because you know what? For years, as you had mentioned, we see where schools were the safe zone. Kids went there and they were happy and there wasn't an issue of being unsafe. That's changed 100%. And having police presence in there more, I think, is a requirement that we have to have. And I appreciate your comments within your report that that's happening. And I know as board members, we would support and hope that that continues and actually go up a notch as well. My other question would be for you, and again, tell me if I'm in the right spot or not, Mr. Chair. Since I've been appointed and where I live, I have neighbors who now visit me. And Highway 2, I know, as you said, and I'm looking at your report, and I'm seeing where, you know, there's like 1,900 warnings and 23% tickets being issued. Highway 2, has that been an issue? Or I know it's turned into a speedway basically from the Blue Anchor to where it opens up around the old volunteer fire department. I'm just asking Mr. Chair through Simon if he can maybe elaborate on that.
Just to your point, if I may, just in terms of the schools, I agree wholeheartedly with you, and it's as the son of 2 former teachers, and like obviously that's the school, our presence in schools is something that has fluctuated in terms of the willingness to have officers within the school, but I think there is proven, or it's been proven that a positive influence with police officers is beneficial to all, and that's something we want to continue to work with. And just last night at one of the town halls, we were discussing, some of the members were discussing that of, you know, even ramping it up, as you said, once our staffing gets to a level that we can accommodate that, but 100%, and it's beyond schools as well too, in terms of we have members doing foot patrol in hospitals, Winchester Hospital, for instance, and just to make it more of a normal sight to see. And our officers are asked, SDG is a huge geographical area, and they do a wonderful job covering the roughly 3,200 square kilometers, but it's still an important piece, and we encourage the members to do that. So in terms of Highway 2, I don't live far from Highway 2 in South Stormont, and I agree, there's, you can just hear the speed of vehicles, and in terms of it being a particularly bad area, I can get some more specific data, but I think in general there's a increase of traffic throughout the counties. I mean, whether it's on the highway or even the secondary roads, and like I know this summer, for instance, provincially has been a terrible summer for motorcycle collisions, and it's an area that we encourage the officers to identify areas. And again, I think that goes back to owning the communities you work in. You should know what as officers, we should know where our problem areas are. And we encourage, and there has been a trend of identifying certain areas for our officers to assist them to target that. But two has, and I've just seen it this summer, like just traveling, whether on or off duty, and it is something that we have to pay attention to. And as with many secondary roads, the margin of error is so slim. If you veer off or you try to pass, there's no passing lane. There's very small shoulders, so the results are often catastrophic. So it's something that yeah, we're definitely, and I've seen before, and forgive me for not knowing now, but I've seen before where we've worked in partnership with, whether it be, I remember North Glengarry, we talked, or it still happens, I believe, with the county roads, in terms of identifying problematic areas, and through, you know, like the traffic counters, or I know North Glengarry used to have that camera, like for instance, west boundary, okay, and it give you a breakdown of time of day, and we also have similar technology, but that's something I think we could incorporate and use more. So it was a very long answer to your question, but
No, through the chair, thank you very much. It's just, I feel good now. Now I can go and answer anybody who's asked me. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Questions or comments? Go ahead, Jim, please.
Through the chair, and Simon, nice to have you back in many capacities. In previous exercises at this table, we've identified areas that we felt could be revisited, and the schooling situation, as Todd alluded to, it always comes to front of mind. And in particular, the parameters of social media and the new levels of expectation regarding sexual assault. And I think at one time we had the discussion that we wanted this sort of coordinated with the school boards, that we would entertain having staff from the OPP coming in and explaining where the expectations lie. Has there been any activity in regards to getting that in motion? And it's more for myself and understanding where the process is.
Thank you for the question. And from what I know, again, I'm just getting up to speed on a lot of how the lay of the land in SDG, but I know our community service officer, PC Duguay, he does a wonderful job in covering the schools across SDG, and a lot of his time is spent providing educational talks. Social media is a huge, I won't get on my soapbox about social media, but it's a huge dilemma for society and policing in general, and it's something we're continuing to work on. And to answer your question, he does do presentations in that, and he does do a lot of time is spent in school in terms of risk assessments, working in conjunction with the school boards in terms of students. But that's something we could definitely increase, and because not daily but weekly there are calls for service for that. And just in regards to social media, that's something else we really want to step up our game in terms of messaging through social media, because that is how people communicate, especially our youth nowadays. So it is something that we're looking to increase. So I think there can never be enough of it. So as soon as we can find ways to increase it, but I mean, we've had those discussions just this week in terms of social media presence and effectively, I mean, not that I guess we do police it, but in terms of dealing with some of the effects of social media, especially on our youth. And just in terms of that school, the threats that you speak of, I know the ones that we had in Iroquois, our officers were there the whole next morning and worked in conjunction with the school officials there just to ensure that they were satisfied, and there is an investigation ongoing into that. So I can't provide details, but it is being followed up upon, and again, that's working collaboratively with the school board. So
Thank you, and I guess the reason for my continuing to stay with this is that as we take a look at the trends on domestic assault in particular and occurrences later on in life, if we can instill the tolerance levels at the younger age, maybe we're being proactive on what's coming down the pipe later on, because these trends seem to persist, and I won't get on my soapbox about social media, but I certainly feel they're a big contributing factor to what the headaches you guys must see on a daily basis. So thanks for your comments on that.
When you are requested to go to things like protests and things like that, you ask the auxiliary to come with you to help out in resources?
generally not. There are instances, for instance, I think the Freedom Convoy and some of those, when it becomes a prolonged event, there were some auxiliaries utilized in that. However, for the public order responsibilities, they're very specific units that train interactively with the other municipal police services. So no, unless it's a prolonged event, then I have seen auxiliaries utilized. As I said, more from in Freedom Convoy they were used somewhat, but generally not, no.
And the cost recovery, is that through the province?
Yeah, a lot, I can get exact details, but to my knowledge, a lot of it's all either billed back to the province and/or there's an agreement with the municipalities, but doesn't reflect on our bills.
Okay, we have a motion. There's nobody else has any comments or questions?
Sure. We had started by reading
Right.
through you, Mr. Chair.
Right, I was saying that to Jamie. We ran through two motions here.
Yep.
Because you went into the reports, so go ahead.
So the motion that we put on the table was the one relating to the
Governance.
policy piece, the
Yeah.
policy documents. So I can quickly give a quick update on that, and then we'll deal with that motion and then Simon's report motion, if that's okay? Okay, so just a quick overview then. You'll see before you item 8.1. We've provided updates to the board's governance bylaw. It's been in place since the early 2000s. So we actually just brought it in line with the new legislation and added some best practices to it, updated the in-camera provisions and provisions regarding electronic meetings, because we do permit that now. And then the 3 standard policies that the board has also had in place for many, many years. Policy 1 is just regarding the detachment commander selection. So it's pretty straightforward as laid out in the legislation. Policy 2 is a member code of conduct that we've had in place for the board for a number of years now. It will be supplemental to the regulations within the new legislation that speaks to member code of conducts as well. And then the 3rd policy is pretty straightforward, no changes at all. It's just our process for the OPP to report to the board. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Are there any questions? Lots of information, that's for sure. Okay, we have a motion, and you read it already. We have a mover and a seconder. Jamie and Jim, or Todd? Todd. Not a hard choice here. There's so many people here. Okay, there's no questions. All in favor of the motion? None opposed. It's carried. Thank you. Next, we had the motion there for the SDG OPP report. You heard the report. Could you read the motion, please?
It reads that the OPP report for January to June 2024 be accepted as information purposes.
Is there any questions, again, for the report? Go ahead, Jamie, please.
If you know how I run a meeting, I like that you just got her all done right away, so.
Well, that's what I said to Jamie. I said, he ran right into the report. I didn't even get a chance to read the motion. That's okay. You're getting things done. I like that. You're forgiven. Okay, so mover and seconder, Todd, Jamie, all in favor of the motion? It is none opposed, it's carried. And I'll ask for the motion, please.
There's no motion, but
No.
CIO Adams can speak to that this morning.
Okay, but you have motion beside here.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, Maureen, I'll let you speak to this, please.
Thank you, Chair McGillis. So on Friday afternoon, we received an update on our OPP annual billing for 2025, as well as a wrap-up for a deficit from 2023. So I've given everybody, or I think we've circulated just a one-page summary, and we will, at a future meeting, go through the budget in a little bit more detail, but I wanted to just highlight part of that impact that will affect SDG counties. So if we look at the estimated cost of the budget from 24 to 25, that increase is about $1.4 million, which is a little over 14%. And then I've included the deficit for 2023, so the grand total billing for 2025 is a little over $12 million. We have put forward a request through the province to get an invoice in the current year, Mr. Warden and Mr. Chair, for the $700,000. I think we'd like to try and see if we can cover that expense this year, and then the increase will fall into our 2025 budget of the $1.4 million. We have had a couple of years where we've had like minimal increases within the OPP, but I think this falls on the heels of a tough budget year. It is a fairly significant increase. It is across Ontario as well. There within the correspondence that we received from the province, there is an opportunity, I think, to participate in some webinars that will be coming up. So we will make sure that we observe that and get some additional information. Just for everybody's knowledge as well, we have an Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus meeting next week, and we've also asked for this item to be brought forward on the agenda. We know I think that Simon spoke to the model that we have here in SDG throughout Eastern Ontario. Many of the lower tier local municipalities receive their billing directly from the OPP, so everybody is in receipt of that information now, and we do know that it's a fairly big impact to many of these municipalities. But we will get more information for a future meeting, but I just wanted to make sure that the board was aware, because it's quite a bit more than what we have seen historically for an increase.
So I know there's nothing we can do about it at this point, but it's my opportunity to vent a little bit. In municipalities, we get in the year of the budget, we get at 6 months and at 9 months, and at the year end, we see red flags for that year. We try to prepare for them. This is a deficit that we're looking at from 2023. Here we are, we're already through the 2024 year, and the budgets were the exact same from 2023 to 2024. So we're looking at another deficit, and we don't know how high that's going to be. And this is going to reflect, I think, what did we look at, 2.1% on our budget. We're looking at a 3% increase from the city of Cornwall for services. These are things that we're going to be about 5.4% increase, and we haven't touched a road, we haven't touched a bridge, we haven't touched it's economic development. We have nowhere to go with those. This is tough. This is tough to swallow, and to get a letter that's this length with no explanations as to what happened, why, what changed. Sure, I'm sure that there are issues. We've had, there are more protests. There are more. Seems like more of everything. But how do we wait a year, almost 10 months past the year end, to tell us that we're in a deficit? So and I know you guys have no control of this at this level, but it's just it's very disappointing, and for it to all come at once, and then looking at what they're telling us is that we'll reconcile basically 2025 and 2026 and 2027. So it just doesn't make sense to me. So I'll get off my soapbox now. So.
Yes, I can appreciate and imagine your frustration with this, the increase and the method in which it was delivered. And again, I'm not worthy of being in your seats, but I can imagine the pressure that it places all of you under. And just in some conversations before, obviously there's many factors that go into it, and there's recently a collective agreement that was signed that was retroactive to 2023, so I'm sure that bore some effect on this. But that being said, I think we owe it to our communities, and communities need to understand why. It's not just from a budgetary purpose, but we always hear that now, explain the why. And in speaking to the CAO, I offered that we can reach out to Municipal Policing Bureau, who are generally very accommodating in terms of either coming to board meetings and accurately answering these questions that you should and will have. And barring that, they can also prepare a very detailed report, and or if there are specific questions that the board or the counties have, that we can work at getting a more fulsome response to that, because 100%, like, for budgetary purposes and trying to balance all the pressures that are placed upon you as elected officials in terms of, or governing an area as large as SDNG. It does make it a Herculean task, and as I said, I'd like to find ways to get you some answers. And as I can't speak to the method in which the news was delivered, but I'm committed to providing you some of the answers that you will have. So.
Any other questions? Okay, go ahead, Jim, please.
I have through the chair, I have a very unique vantage point here because I'm still allowed a small stump. But one of the issues that I had when I went through this was that when we went to the ride-along program in our budgeting, we were taking a look especially at reducing the amount of overtime that the constables were tied up with waiting in the hospitals. And that investment has been a remarkable increase in service to our constituents. But I still see that overtime consists of a fairly prominent figure. And I was sort of intrigued when I read the report last night that training is included in overtime. And I guess I'm surprised, to be honest. Like, I certainly think that it needs to be compensated, but I'm assuming that overtime also triggers a premium in the hours. And I wasn't sure how that followed. It must be part of the collective agreement, I'm assuming that. Or am I mistaken on that? That
For training purposes, say I went on a course next week and I work 12-hour shifts generally, you'll be switched to an administrative schedule, so 8 to 4 or 9 to 5, or usually 8 to 4, but your shifts will be altered to mirror whatever course you're on. The only overtime that might be incurred would be travel days and what have you, but generally, again, we work hard to try to accommodate that into the schedule. There is some overtime. In terms of the hospitals, there has been a marked decrease in the waiting time for officers there. To be frank, where the largest amount of overtime is coming from is to cover staffing minimums, and that's where the primary source of overtime. Just speaking in generalities, that's what I see is a lot of the overtime is coming back to making sure that we have sufficient number of officers on the road for any given shift. But in terms of the training, we do work hard to make sure that people are either given days in lieu and or, as I said, their schedule is altered to reflect that training period. There may be some overtime, but it's not like they're going on a course for a week and it's on overtime. So.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Todd, please.
Just a question, I could be wrong on this. When I'm looking at the letter dated October 4th, which came to us Friday, which is fine, when I see Dear Mayor Reeves say, "Oh, Treasurer," just out of curiosity, police board member, shouldn't we have been part of this letter? Sorry? Shouldn't we have been included in this letter right off the bat, Mr. Chair? I would say so. Obviously, if we're dealing with the budget, I think we should be seeing this right off the bat. And again, I appreciate it coming to us on the 4th, but I think it should be direct right off the bat.
Kimberly, what do you have to say to that one?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the Municipal Policing Bureau has the chair's contact and administration, but we strive to make sure when we receive it here, it's sent out directly to you as well, as we did on Friday. But I can also follow up with the Bureau to provide your emails as well, so it's direct.
I'd appreciate that, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome, and I agree. The information comes really quickly from the administration here. I have to agree with what Jamie was saying with respect to the deficit. Now I'm wondering, of course, how budgets and deliberation of budgets are very difficult these days, and it's getting more difficult and challenging. I'm just wondering how, Jamie mentioned it's 2.1%. I didn't know what was that. in terms of what the increase will be to our budget at the county level? How will that impact the municipalities? Do we know yet in terms of their levy?
How it will impact the local municipalities? Well, our levy is, if we take this budget as it is and absorb the deficit within this year, it will have an increase on our levy of the 2.41%, which is approximately half of what the local levies are. But then the warden also commented on the challenges that we're hearing from shared services within the city of Cornwall. So we are likely sitting at about a 5.4, 5.5 levy increase right now without anything that takes into consideration the county's budget. So we'll have better information from the city of Cornwall in the next 2 weeks, and then we will also spend a little bit more time going through this. But that's, I think because of the impact, we wanted to make sure that we got it to the board as quickly as possible. And we'll probably follow up from this meeting and share it with county council as well so that they're aware sooner than later.
Any more questions regarding the annual billing? Nothing? Okay.
That the SDG Police Services Board proceed in camera pursuant to Section 44(2)E of the Community Safety and Policing Act 2019, litigation or potential litigation affecting the board, including matters before administrative tribunals for a legal matter.
All those in favor of the motion? Is that first Jamie and second Jim? All in favor, sorry. It's carried, thank you.
The motion to reconvene reads that the SDG Police Services Board rise and reconvene in open session without reporting.
We have a mover. I'll ask Todd and Jamie will second it, please. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. None opposed. Next, we have a motion to adjourn.
That the meeting adjourn to the call of the chair.
All those in favor of the motion? Mover, Jamie. Seconder is Jim. Before we close, maybe before the meeting, because the way we do everything else in terms of the mover and seconder, we'll do it prior to the meeting because it's so much different and confusing because it's just natural that we ask for the motion and then we ask to support it or don't support it, right? Would you do that? That's going to be a lot easier. You can't change an old trick, an old dog, an old new trick, right?
Did he just call you old? Oh, are we still on camera?
Me, I was speaking of myself, not you, that's for sure. So we said all those in favor, and then everybody said yes. So thank you for the meeting, and thanks for joining us today and your information and everyone's comments. Have a great day.